Thank you, RainbowPUSH, and I missed you last weekend. Last weekend I was in New Orleans, and when I saw that that was the 300th anniversary of the founding of the city of New Orleans, right there in the Gulf of Mexico, right off of the Mississippi River, I had to go back and think that next year, in 2019, will be the 400th anniversary of Africans in the Americas. So what time is it, is my comments today. What time is it? We're going on our 400th year of Africans in the Americas. I want to thank God for the life and soul of the Queen of Soul, Miss Aretha Franklin, a woman that was authentic, that was in touch with her God, that was in touch with her people, that had a commitment to all of us. She didn't ask to be the queen. That was a title that was bestowed upon her because of her service that she had offered to so many. That makes her the queen when you're willing to have a benevolent heart, a soul, where you're a giver to life and not a taker. When she says that black people made her money, and through that money that she had, because of her talent and her gift in music, she could give back to her people. And she could invest in civil rights. That's what makes her stand above other singers and songwriters and entertainers and performers. She was a giver to her people. Reverend Evans always told us, your time, your talent, and your treasure, make sure you give some of those, he tells me all the time. Give of your time, give of your talent, and give of your treasure. That's a message for everyone today. On this day in 1976, September 1st, it was recognized for Fortsburg, St. John, where the first successful slave rebellion happened in the year of 1717. Why is that important? Because we've never stopped fighting as a people. It was in 1894, after the Pullman strike, where the black Pullman workers on the south side of Chicago, where everyone was called Charlie, where the black workers could not join the white union, that America recognized the value of a Labor Day. Labor Day starts in Chicago with the Pullman porters. Now here we are in 2018, 50 years after the Reverend Martin Luther King has died. 50 years later, we have to do an assessment. We've seen that our queen has died. God bless Barbara Bush, and God bless Senator John McCain. But America has a dual, contradictory, hypocritical sense of history. How can you praise the great Muhammad Ali, who was anti the war, and then extol the virtues you say of those that fought in a war? How can you talk about Mrs. Franklin's commitment to civil rights and talk about those that fought against civil rights in the state of Arizona? It's a consistent, dual, paradoxical, contradictory, hypocritical kind of mindset. Why is that important? We have to bring our children in so we can teach them that we've been a fighting and a loving people our entire life. Now, here is a voice that I am going to introduce today. I want you to know the fight is not over. What do I mean by the fight is not over? When Miss Franklin saw that Emmett Till was killed, something was stirred in her soul, where she could never look back and never stop. She always went back to the church of her father, New Bethel, and always gave out food and did concerts to keep that church alive. I remember meeting Mr. B.B. King. He always went back to Jackson, Mississippi to stay with his friend, Medgar Evers. He went there 49 out of 50 years. No matter where he was in the world, he went back to Jackson. Are you going to go back and remember and reclaim and help anyone? Let us not forget where we've come from. It's been 50 years. Why don't you bring your children in here? They need a civics education. They need a Sunday school education. And they need a school education. So as we get ready to go back, Why am I bringing on my friend and my brother this morning? Because someone has to raise their voice. It's never been popular. It's never been easy. How do you get the money and the resources from the whites and have to deal with the poor and the black? Some people turn their back and they forget. Ms. Franklin never did. B.B. King never did. I want us to renew our commitment to civil rights and to human rights for all. It's 50 years later, and I thank God for the jubilation, the spirit of resistance. Here in the city of Chicago, a judge, voting matters is what my father tells you. Voting matters is what he tells you. He'll say it till he's blue in the face that voting matters. We've got a judge in the city of Chicago. The city of Chicago has paid the family of a child that was killed 16 shots by a police officer. Interesting enough, the police officer is saying this is politically driven on his indictment. He says he's the only officer that's been indicted in decades. Why him? Because they released the video footage. And the other video footage was erased in the Burger King after the Chicago Police Department went there. He says it's a political indictment because he was simply doing his job as he has been trained as a Chicago policeman. What does that mean? That means at the target range, they may only have images of young black boys that they have to shoot at. They're not going to have a white woman with blonde hair to teach them to shoot, and nor should they. We've got to stand up, and we're not going to let this rest. Somebody's got to raise their voice and stand up. We need employment on the South Side. We need jobs. We need investments in education. We're going to raise our voice.